It was the kind of day that Los Angeles rarely offered. A breezy afternoon with a soft golden sun brushing over the hills, the usual chaos of the city replaced by a rare calm. At a quaint cafe tucked away in West Hollywood, Demi Moore sat at a corner table with her 3 daughters, Rumor, Scout and Tallulah. There were no makeup artists, no flashing cameras, no red carpets, just a mother enjoying a quiet moment with her children. Demi had fought hard for these fragments of normalcy. As one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces since the 1980s, her life had rarely been private. But here, surrounded by chatter and the smell of fresh coffee, she let her guard down. Rumor laughed at something Scout said. Tallulah picked at a muffin, distracted by her phone. Demi watched them with a smile, the kind only a mother could wear. In that moment, she was not Demi Moore the celebrity. She was just Mom. These were the kind of memories she wanted for her daughters, free of paparazzi, free of judgment, free of fear. But peace in a city that thrives on spectacle never lasts long. Just across the street, a man leaned against a lamppost with a telephoto lens slung across his chest. His name was Tony Maddox, and among Hollywood circles, his name was Poison. A paparazzo by trade and a provocateur by choice, Tony had made a name for himself by crossing lines other photographers wouldn't dare. He wasn't there just to snap photos, he was there to spark a reaction. And with Demi Moore in his sights, he smelled opportunity. He lifted the camera slowly, already picturing the headline, "Demi Moore breaks down in front of her daughters." He didn't care about the truth. He never had. Before we continue, if you're captivated by real-life drama and celebrity moments that reveal true character, hit that subscribe button and join us for more unforgettable stories. Tony took his first shot. Click. Then another. Click. Demi didn't notice at first, too engrossed in her daughter's conversation, but then came the unmistakable sound of a shutter in rapid fire. Click, click, click. Her body stiffened. Years of experience told her exactly what was happening without even turning around. She glanced up, scanning the street, and saw him. He didn't flinch. In fact, he smiled. Demi's instincts kicked in. She reached out and gently tapped Rumor's arm. "Girls," she said, her tone calm but urgent, "we need to go." Rumor looked up, confused. "What's wrong?" "Don't look. Just gather your things." But it was too late. Tony had already crossed the street, his lens focused and unforgiving. The girls noticed. Scout's smile faded. Tallulah's brows furrowed. Rumor turned pale. Demi stood up, shielding her daughters with her body as best as she could, whispering reassuring words even as her heart pounded. She didn't want a scene. She didn't want fear in their eyes. But she knew what was coming. Tony didn't stop. He moved closer, weaving through tables, snapping photos like a predator stalking prey. A waiter tried to step in, but Tony waved him off, citing freedom of the press. The manager was nowhere to be found. Other patrons began to stare, some pulling out their phones to record. The peaceful cafe had become a stage, and Demi Moore was the unwilling star. She gritted her teeth and kept her voice steady. "Please, just let us leave." Tony didn't respond. He just kept clicking. And with each shutter, the tension mounted, turning a sunny afternoon into something darker. Tony Maddox thrived on discomfort. He had made a career of reading micro-expressions: panic, anger, fear. Those were the shots that sold. And now, as Demi Moore stood shielding her daughters, he saw everything he needed. A famous actress cornered, children frightened, a story ready to be spun out of control. He moved closer, the camera lens practically brushing Demi's shoulder. "Demi, why are you hiding? Trouble at home again?" His voice was loud, brash, designed to trigger. Rumor flinched at the question. Scout looked around anxiously, clutching her sister's arm. Tallulah's lips trembled, though she said nothing. Their cafe retreat was now a war zone. Demi stood firm, but her voice cracked ever so slightly. "That's enough, please, just stop." Tony ignored her, emboldened by the growing crowd of bystanders. Is Bruce back in the picture, or is this another mystery man? His camera clicked faster, feeding off the fear he was creating. One of the patrons spoke up, a woman in her 40s. "Hey, leave them alone. They're just trying to have lunch." Tony spun toward her, grinning. "This is public space, lady. You don't like it, don't look." Demi took a deep breath, trying to remain calm, but her patience was eroding. This wasn't about fame anymore. This was about her children. 3 girls being publicly humiliated and emotionally battered for someone else's payday. She crouched beside Tallulah, trying to calm her. "Sweetheart, just breathe, we're okay." But her voice was shaky, and Tallulah could see the fear behind her mother's calm facade. The situation escalated with every passing second. Tony began circling them, crouching, angling for better shots. His camera nearly brushed against Scout's shoulder. Rumor, now visibly trembling, tried to block the lens with her hand. "Back off," she shouted, her voice cracking. Tony only laughed, delighted. "Ooh, the kids are feisty, just like their mum." And that was the last straw. Demi stood, fury barely contained. Her hands were shaking, her jaw clenched tight. She placed herself directly in front of Tony, her body language clear. "No more. You don't get to do this to them, not today." Tony kept clicking. "You think being famous means privacy? You signed up for this, Demi, you all did." "No," she said quietly. "They didn't." A silence fell over the immediate crowd. The words hit hard, raw and honest. These weren't the polished lines of a celebrity interview. This was a mother protecting her children in real time. Some of the spectators began murmuring, questioning why no one had intervened. Others started filming. Tony didn't care. In fact, he welcomed the attention. In his mind, any reaction meant he had won. But for Demi, this wasn't a game. Her daughter's eyes were filled with confusion and fear. She could see the years of therapy unfolding in those expressions, the trauma being carved into their memories. She leaned into Tony's space now, closer than she'd ever dared. "Is this what you wanted? Pictures of frightened children? You proud of that?" Tony raised his eyebrows but didn't respond. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Behind them, a small group had gathered at the cafe entrance, watching in stunned silence. A man whispered to another, "Where's security?" Still, no one came. Demi turned back to her girls, trying to steer them toward the exit. But Tony moved again, blocking their path, firing off another burst of shots. The girls gasped. Rumor reached for her phone, fumbling with shaky fingers. "Let us go," Demi pleaded, eyes locked on Tony. But he just smirked and took one final shot, so close the flash burned her vision. The flash hadn't fully faded from Demi's eyes when a familiar voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Is there a reason you're harassing a woman and her kids, or are you just that desperate for attention?" Heads turned. Tony froze. There, standing a few feet away, was Bruce Willis. He wasn't supposed to be there, not yet. He had planned to meet the girls later at a bookstore downtown, but something had told him to stop by the cafe early. A father's instinct, maybe, or just chance. Either way, his timing was impeccable. Bruce's expression was unreadable. No sunglasses, no entourage, just calm intensity. He took one step forward, eyes never leaving Tony. "You've got about 3 seconds to get that camera out of their faces." Tony hesitated, then sneered. "Well, look who showed up. Hollywood tough guy himself. You gonna punch me, John McClane?" Bruce didn't blink. "No. I'm going to do something a lot more effective." Demi exhaled sharply, a mix of relief and disbelief crossing her face. Her daughters instinctively moved closer to Bruce, seeking refuge in his presence. He glanced at each of them briefly, nodding with a silent promise. "You're safe now." Tony raised his camera again, testing him. "This is public property. I'm allowed to film. You think just because you're famous you can make the rules?" Bruce stepped forward slowly, deliberately. His voice was steady. "No one's arguing about the law, but there's a line and you've crossed it." Tony laughed, but the bravado was already fading. He took a step back without realizing it. Bruce continued, his tone calm but commanding. "You got your pictures. Now you're stalking children. That's not journalism, that's bullying. And you're doing it to people who've already lived through enough." Tony rolled his eyes. "Spare me the speech." Bruce didn't flinch. "You want attention? Fine, let's give you some. Let's put your name out there. Let people see how you treat kids. Let the world decide if that's the kind of press they want." The crowd was growing. Phones were out. People were recording. The shift in energy was palpable. Bruce hadn't raised his voice, hadn't touched Tony, but the balance of power had shifted completely. Demi took a small step forward, her hand resting lightly on Bruce's arm. Her voice was soft, but resolute. "Thank you." He nodded, not breaking eye contact with Tony. "Take the girls to the car. I'll handle this." For a moment, Tony looked like he might push back, maybe throw out another insult, maybe shove the camera in Bruce's face. But something in Bruce's demeanor stopped him. There was no threat, no aggression, just absolute certainty. And that, more than anything, unnerved Tony. Bruce turned slightly, never exposing his back, and gestured for the girls to go with their mother. Rumor took Tallulah's hand. Scout clutched her bag tightly. As they moved toward the sidewalk, they glanced back at their father. He gave them a small nod, steady, protective. Tony remained frozen, unsure of his next move. "Go home," Bruce said quietly, "and think about what kind of man you really want to be." It wasn't a threat. It was a truth, one that echoed louder than any scream could. Tony lowered his camera slowly. For the first time, his expression faltered. He muttered something under his breath and stepped back, disappearing into the crowd. Bruce watched him go, his stance relaxed now, but his eyes alert. He turned back toward the cafe, scanning the area, ensuring the moment was over. It was, for now. Bruce remained still, watching until Tony fully disappeared from sight. Then he exhaled slowly, as if releasing a weight he'd carried since the moment he arrived. The crowd had quieted, but their eyes were still on him, some in awe, others unsure of what they'd just witnessed. A man in the crowd broke the silence. That was something else. Bruce turned toward him, offered a small nod, then walked to the curb where Demi and the girls stood beside the car, the engine still off. The girls had already gotten inside, shaken but recovering. Demi met Bruce halfway. Her voice was low. "I didn't know what to do." He just wouldn't stop. Bruce looked at her, then past her, at the tinted windows of the car where 3 young faces watched him. "You did everything right," he said. He was the one who didn't. For a moment, neither spoke. Years of shared history hung between them. Marriage, heartbreak, healing. But in that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was that they were parents, united. Demi blinked hard. "Thank you." Bruce shook his head gently. "You don't need to thank me." Back in the cafe, murmurs rose. Someone uploaded a video. Someone else tagged a friend. Within minutes, clips of Bruce's calm confrontation began surfacing online, and the story started spreading like wildfire, not because it was scandalous, but because it wasn't. No yelling, no violence. Just a father standing up for his children and their mother in a way that radiated quiet strength. That was what people couldn't stop watching. Later that evening, one of the most shared clips would be Bruce's final words to Tony. "Go home and think about what kind of man you really want to be." It resonated far beyond celebrity circles. People recognized something real in it, something rare. Back at the cafe, Bruce opened the car door and sat in the front passenger seat. He didn't start talking right away. Instead, he turned slightly, looking into the back where the girls sat. "You all okay?" Rumor gave a shaky nod. "Now we are." Tallulah wiped at her eyes. "He scared me." "I know," Bruce said gently. "That wasn't supposed to happen. And it's not okay." Scout, always the quiet one, added, "You didn't yell, you didn't fight him, but he stopped anyway." Bruce met her gaze. "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay calm. Not for them, for you." Demi started the car. Her hands still trembled slightly on the wheel, but her voice was steady. "Let's just go home." As they pulled away from the cafe, the atmosphere inside the car was heavy but safe. Bruce turned to look once more at the sidewalk they'd left behind. No sign of Tony, no crowd, just the fading light of a day that had started with peace, spiraled into chaos, and ended with quiet defiance. That night, after the girls were home and asleep, Demi called Bruce. She didn't say much, just a few words, simple and honest. "What you did today, I'll never forget it." Bruce paused. "Neither will they." Across the internet, strangers echoed that same sentiment. Comments poured in, headlines shifted, not about scandal or breakdowns, but about respect, restraint, and what it means to be a protector in a world obsessed with spectacle. Tony's photos, ironically, never sold. Bruce's words did something far more powerful than provoke. They inspired. By the following morning, the video had already gone viral. It began on a small Instagram account focused on celebrity news. Within hours, it was on Twitter, Facebook, and even the morning talk shows. People weren't just sharing it, they were talking about it. The way Bruce Willis handled the situation struck a chord in a way few celebrity moments did. No theatrics, no bravado, just presence, clarity, and control. The story made headlines globally. Bruce Willis stands up for his family, with dignity. Others followed, when calm is the loudest voice in the room. Journalists and bloggers praised Bruce's reaction as an example of responsible masculinity. Parenting blogs dissected his choice of words. Psychologists on TV highlighted how his restraint set a standard for de-escalation. In a world saturated with outrage and spectacle, Bruce had done something quietly revolutionary. He had acted like a father, and the world applauded. Tony Maddox, meanwhile, wasn't so lucky. The public backlash was swift. News sites began digging into his past. Other incidents, complaints, moments caught on tape. A pattern emerged, and his credibility crumbled. His agency issued a statement cutting ties. Legal experts debated the possibility of restraining orders or new protections for celebrities' children. But Bruce didn't address any of that publicly. He gave no interviews, made no comments. He didn't need to. His actions had spoken loud enough. At home, the aftermath was quieter but deeply felt. Demi and Bruce shared a conversation over coffee that weekend. No cameras, no statements, just two people reconnecting over a moment that reminded them of what really mattered. "I know we've had our differences," Demi said, her fingers curled around the cup. Bruce smiled. "That's life." "But when it counted, you were there." He looked at her for a long moment before replying, "I'll always be there. For them. For you too." It wasn't about romance. It wasn't about rekindling anything. It was about respect, earned, lived, and reaffirmed. In the weeks that followed, the girls returned to their routines. But something had changed. They walked with more confidence, talked more openly about boundaries. The fear they had felt that day didn't disappear, but it was now balanced by something stronger, the memory of being protected. Demi later spoke briefly about the incident during an interview, choosing her words carefully. "That day was terrifying, but it also reminded me of who Bruce is at his core, and why our daughters look up to him the way they do." The interviewer nodded. He didn't raise his voice. "No," she said, "he didn't have to." Across social media, tributes continued to pour in. Fans shared their own stories of standing up for loved ones. Fathers talked about what they learned. Teenagers praised how the girl's fear was met with calm, not chaos. The video became more than a moment. It became a message. Not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes they wear quiet confidence and speak only when it matters most. And as for Bruce Willis, he carried on like always, low profile, humble, and fiercely devoted to his family. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power of integrity and quiet courage, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that inspire and illuminate. Because sometimes in the most unexpected moments, character is revealed. And if you want to see another incredible story that captivated the world, click the video on your screen now. There's more to discover, more to feel, and more reasons to believe in the good that still exists, even in the spotlight.